So good afternoon everyone and welcome to Gallant IAS. My name is Sibi Joy. As part of our test series, this is the explanation for test number 2, which is an NCERT test. Now I don't want to discuss all the questions and waste both your valuable time, my valuable time. Okay. So we'll begin off really quickly. Certain questions we will be discussing which I feel have certain elements which are unique, or which touch on parts which we haven't discussed generally, which are not generally discussed in the NCERT parts, because UPSC does not take the common question. There's never a question saying like Chandragupta Maurya was succeeded by. UPSC never asks a question like that, but rather they will ask questions which are in the peripheral regions of the NCERT textbook. So I wish to give explanation for the questions which are touching on the peripheral region of the NCERT textbooks. I won't be reading all the questions, I won't be giving the explanation for all the questions, selected questions, so that we can finish it off very quickly. Okay. So take question number 2. During this dynasty, architecture took a back seat. Only tombs were commissioned during this period. However, one important feature of the architecture during this period was the introduction of the double dome. It consisted of a hollow dome inside the top dome. Identify the dynasty mentioned in the above paragraph. A. Mughal dynasty, B. Sayyid dynasty, C. Lodi dynasty, D. Khilji dynasty. Now, we always have a tendency to find the right answer. Change your mindset. Eliminate what is wrong. Do you think the Mughal dynasty did not promote architecture? Obviously wrong. The finest Indo-Islamic architecture came under the Mughals. Eliminate option A. What about the Khiljis? Did they build something? Alai Darwaza, the first proper Islamic arch and pillar method, was done by Alauddin Khilji for building Alai Darwaza. Okay, so definitely they too promoted. And dome, they specifically mention in the statement it's dome. So we know it's not Khilji, we know it's not Mughals. What is left? Lodi and Sayyid dynasty. So which do you think is the better answer? Lodi dynasty, because they did focus on little bit of architecture, especially for the double dome. They are famous for the double dome. Is it clear? Yes. So this is the kind of logical elimination I want you to make. Don't jump into finding out the right answer. Eliminate the options which you know for sure are wrong. That will help you make a qualitative assessment. Clear? So let's look at question number 4. Consider the following statements regarding the Sanskrit poet Rajashekhara and his works. Rajashekhara was an eminent Sanskrit poet, dramatist and critic of the 10th century. He had written Karpura Manjari to praise the conquest of Gurjara Pratihara king Devapala. And 3. Karpura Manjari was written in Sauraseni Prakrit language. Select the correct answer using the codes given below. 1 and 3 only, 1 and 2 only, 2 and 3 only, 1, 2 and 3 only. So first question, who's Rajashekhara? Everyone knows he's a court poet. The next duty the next duty upon you is to find out whose court poet was Rajashekhara, which era was he in. Was he an ancient scholar? Was he a medieval era scholar? Was he a modern, early modern scholar? Yes. So when you learn about different dynasties, when you learn about different kingdoms, you learn about different people, right? Harisena. Any idea who's Harisena? Samudragupta's inscription on the Delhi Iron Pillar. Yes. So you know Harisena. What about Kalidasa? Chandragupta II, also known as Vikramaditya. So we know all these people. So you should be knowing which king had this person or this personality as a scholar. And Gurjara Pratihara king Mahendrapala, if I'm not mistaken, that can be a change, but I genuinely think it's Mahendrapala, whose court poet was Rajashekhara. Okay. And one of his famous work was Karpura Manjari, but it is not to praise the conquest of the Gurjara Pratihara king, but rather about Avanti Sundari. Avanti Sundari. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, Avanti Sundari, yes. He wrote this Sanskrit work Karpura Manjari with regards to his wife Avanti Sundari. Okay, so it's not towards the king. So this is taken from the NCERT. If you look at NCERT, it's the medieval India book of Northern India, Age of 3 Empires. In that book, this topic is mentioned. So please be aware about all these small things. Okay? Please be aware about it. Okay? Clear? When you learn about all these scholars, generally our tendency is to just know the scholar's name. You should be knowing which era they lived in. You should be knowing which kingdom or which king they followed. You should be having an idea about what kind of literature they were promoting. Okay? Is that clear? Good? Okay. So we'll look at a few more questions. In history, yes. Look at question number 11. Question number 11. The rule of primogeniture is related to A. Women having the right to property. B. Eldest son inherits father's estate. C. Division of inheritance among all sons. D. The equal right of all children to the ancestral property. Rule of primogeniture. This is a history question, not polity. So don't go in that angle. Do you know why this question is very important? This rule of primogeniture was absent in the Mughal Empire. The rule of primogeniture says the eldest son inherits the father's estate. Okay? So it's usually a bedrock of feudal empires. Okay? During the feudal era, the eldest son gets all the father's estates. Okay? That's how it goes. If you, what do you say? Yes. The rest will get some allotment of some portions of land, or generally they will work under the eldest son. It's an element of feudal era. Now the Mughal kingdom was very famous for not having primogeniture. That merit mattered. If you have the might, you are right. Was Aurangzeb the eldest son? Who was the eldest son? Dara Shikoh. Aurangzeb defeated Dara Shikoh and then came to power. Okay. What about in certain cases, even in ancient India, the rule of primogeniture was not followed. With the case of Ashoka, was Ashoka the eldest son? History says he had nearly 100 brothers or something. Let's leave that exaggeration. But clearly he is not the eldest son. Clear? Okay? Okay. So these are certain terms which are mentioned in your NCERT. Be aware about it. Question number 13. Consider the following statements regarding Amar Jeevan by Raj Sundari Devi. First statement, it is the first known autobiography written by an Indian woman. 2. It narrates the life story of a 19th century woman's struggle for literacy. Select the correct answer. Option A, 1 only. Option B, 2 only. Option C, both 1 and 2. And option D, none of the above. Again, UPSC has started asking, random literary works, Deshar Katha, etc., etc. So, Amar Jeevan by Raj Sundari Devi. How many of you wrote? The answer is C. How many of you made it right? You made it right. It is the first known autobiography written by an Indian woman. Okay? It narrates the life of a 19th century woman's struggle for literacy. It talks about the lady's daily life. She talks about how her everyday life was going on. So it's a very important textbook. It's not a part of the conventional advanced books you read, but it is there in your NCERT. Is that clear? No. She's not a freedom fighter. So she was struggling to get educated, and at the age of 60, she wrote an autobiography. See, you can write an autobiography at the age of 20. No one is going to question it. But I think at the age of 20, you've experienced very less part of your life. So Raj Sundari Devi wrote her autobiography at the age of 60, where she was talking about the struggle she had for education and how her life was, restricted towards the household and everything. Clear? That's Amar Jeevan. Okay. Let's talk about question number 15. Which of the following port is also known as the emporium of the Western trade? Please be very aware. Western trade. A. Port of Bharuch. B. Port of Kolachal. C. Port of Lothal. D. Port of Surat. So it's on the western part. Eliminate the ones you know for sure are not on the western part. Can we say Port of Kolachal can be removed? Where is Kolachal? Southern part of India, Kerala, near to Trivandrum, Kanyakumari. Okay? So collateral can be removed. It's not in Western trade. Remove option C. We are left with Port of Bharuch, Port of Lothal and Port of Surat. What about Port of Lothal? Indus Valley civilization. Has it ever received the title name like Emporium of Western Trade? No. Remove Lothal. You are left with two ones, Port of Bharuch and Port of Surat. Now go back to medieval India, early modern India. Which port do you think was known as the Emporium of Western Trade? Why? Apply your knowledge. Why do you think Surat was so important? Mecca, the gateway to Mecca. Why? Because during medieval era, India, especially northern India, was ruled by Delhi Sultanate, followed by the Mughals, Sur dynasty, etc., etc., and all other Arabic dynasties or Muslim dynasties. So Mecca or their connections with Mecca or towards the Arabic Peninsula were really high, and Surat was their gateway. Okay, and almost every trade that happened, take even during the when European powers came to India, Gujarat or Surat was the major place where the traders wanted to come. English factories were set up over there, French factories, everyone wanted to set up factories in Surat. Is that clear? That's why Surat is known as the Emporium of Western Trade. So we looked at three options. Any idea where the port of Bharuch is located? It's in Gujarat. Any specialty about it? It's the second oldest continuously habited city in India. First is Varanasi, Kashi. People have been living in Kashi for the past 2000 years. But Bharuch is, after Varanasi, it's the oldest living inhabitation in India. It's also in Gujarat. To be specific, on the banks of Narmada. It's also a very important port. Is that clear? Okay? Yes.